as human beings.
Well, I do want to get into online gaming, very much so. I want to backtrack a minute. One thing that I think is interesting, when you were talking about how when you went to college, you decided to shed your D&D ways and you maybe be a filmmaker or an actor or a writer, and all of these things are all kind of creative outlets, and I kind of almost, rather than put D&D in this like World of Warcraft online gaming category, I would almost put it more in a theater, like artistic category. It seems very creative, and when you come back to the online gaming, it almost seems like it simplifies the narrative.
It can, for sure. I mean, I do feel like, I don't know if there's a question there, or I should just respond to what you said, but one of the things I felt as an old school gamer who had not played I played some video games, but I never played any of these online games like World of Warcraft, which I will say, as artistic achievements, are gorgeous. I mean, just to log in for a few hours and run around in the world and just observe whether or not you want to kill things and level up and become uber powerful. Just to observe the artistry that goes into creating these worlds is pretty astounding. But I always found, as a kid who was attracted to the stuff, it was less about killing things and becoming more powerful, and it was more about that imaginative place that I went to in my head, which I've come to sort of characterize as my medieval moments, which I still have today. And that's part of the thing that was haunting me as an adult, as like the Lord of the Rings movies came out in the early part of this century. It's funny to say that, isn't it? Early part of this century. Back in 2001, 2002, and 2003, and I found myself weirdly sucked back into this sort of fantasy mode that I thought I'd left behind. And that was one of the impetus or the catalyst that got me to think about exploring this in my book and going on this quest, this personal quest. But where you're in a place where you are thinking about, well, what would the world be like if I wasn't actually Ethan in the 21st century, but I was, Ethor the barbarian, and I was, dressed in armor, and I was going through the woods just here in Somerville. What would I see? Are there elves? Are there fairies? Are there monsters? And that was always what was attractive to me about it. It was about making the worlds, making the maps. In this book of mine, one of the cool things that my publisher did was, here's my book, is they made some collages of some of these maps that I drew when I was a kid. So these are my dungeon maps that I collage of some of the dungeon maps that I drew when I was the game referee, the dungeon master. And the other one is like, this one is a map of a world very similar to like what Tolkien would have done for Middle Earth. Any role-playing game player who is worth their salt is going to try to at some point design their own world. Well, my world is going to look like this. It's going to have lakes and mountains and all this kind of stuff. That was the stuff that captivated me. It was the imaginative place that I went to that was more about creativity than it was about killing things and enjoying. Although I will say there was some pleasure derived from just killing things and imagining the gore and the guts and all that. And I feel very strongly that a lot of people who play these games have a really finely tuned kind of agile mind that allows them to think of creative solutions to problems. A lot of them have gone on to become writers or musicians or filmmakers or actors. A lot of them, of course, are computer programmers too, but it's that sort of bifurcated mind that's partly creative and partly highly analytical that this game, Dungeons and Dragons, does bring together. And I feel very strongly that I probably am a writer because of my early immersion in this game, which is about storytelling. I learned from a very early age how to tell a story, even though I wasn't writing fiction. Oh, actually, that's not true. When I was a teenager, having read Lord of the Rings, I immediately wanted to write my own version of Lord of the Rings, and I remember starting these epic fantasy novels that went about 5 pages, and then I would grow tired and get bored and couldn't. Of course, I had no conception of how to actually write a novel, but at the time I thought, I'll write my own, my own fantasy epic. And you're right. There's a possibility that same muscle is not being exercised by online gaming. But I tried to go into it with an open mind. I never really fully got into online gaming in the same way that I was attracted to D&D. But I think there are other things that are happening with the online games that the game designers were never really intending to give people. Part of it is the socialization. Part of it is connecting people and making them feel part of, not being feeling alone and as isolated as they were. Partly that's the internet, and partly that's the game. And then obviously for the disabled community, it's a huge boon, because you can now live and behave in an environment where people aren't judging you based on your appearance. You know, if I'm in a wheelchair and all I can move is my index finger, if I'm playing a game like World of Warcraft, no one knows that about me. All they know is my digital avatar on the screen. It's quite beautiful in a way. There's a woman who I interview in the book who is having some, has a degenerative muscular disorder, sort of like muscular dystrophy, and she has a hard time walking and using her arms and her hands. But on good days when she can play games, she's able to do things in these game worlds. As she said, I can run barefoot through the grass. My little avatar can do it. She can't do that in the real world, but her avatar can do it. And that's bringing this experience to life. It's very much akin to what the Jake Sully character in the movie Avatar gets to do. That is the thing that is like a metaphorical embodiment for being absolutely let loose and being able to go wild and run prancing practically naked through the jungle, right? Which is partly what we've always wanted to do, or partly maybe is in our DNA somewhere.
Right.
In our loincloths, we're going to run around in the jungle killing the saber-toothed tiger with our spears, you know? I mean, that's the sort of fantasy that I think we all, whether we are conscious of it or not, I think it's in our bloodstreams.
Yeah, well, I mean, I